It's a smooth 98.1. Love music, love life. It's a throwback Thursday morning, 30th day of January 2025. We can almost safely say the first month in the new year is on its way out. We still have one more day to go, but quickest January in recent memory. I keep saying this, and a lot of people agree with me. I hope you do as well, because it has been quite swift. This is the Smooth Breakfast Ayokunmi right here with you, taking you into the world of the news stories. We're going to get analysis and your reactions as well. This is Freshly Pressed. All you need to do, join us, share those messages on WhatsApp and on YouTube as well. The WhatsApp number is 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 981. That is the WhatsApp number. We're also streaming on YouTube. You can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Those are the ways that you can join us this morning. Drop your comments there as well. I'll take them along with the WhatsApp messages. So, joining me this morning to take a look at the stories and give their analysis, their perspective, and just break it all down. Mr. C and Gbubemi are with me on a Thursday morning. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Great to have you in.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Mr. C. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Gbubemi. Good morning, Lagos.
All right, let's get this show on the road. And Mr. C, we're going to start in the Vanguard and talk about the NLC. They've been in the news in the last couple of days, and we are back here again now as part of its mobilization against the planned 50% telecom traffic hike, tariff hike, I beg your pardon. The Nigeria Labour Congress, the NLC, has resolved to hold a nationwide anti-telecom tariff hike protest on Tuesday. That's the 4th of February. Now, the Vanguard gathered that the nationwide protest was agreed on at the ongoing National Administrative Council, that's the NAC of the NLC. Now, it's aimed, according to them, it's aimed at sounding a note of warning to the government that workers would resist the planned hike, as it would worsen the poverty level across the country. Is the NLC fighting the wrong battles here? Is this a case of medicine after death or something, or are they spot on with what they're trying to do here?
Okay, thank you, Ayo. I think, no, I'm convinced they're trying to waste everybody's time, right? Now, we must put this in proper context. The NLC represents only a fraction of the total workforce in Nigeria. There are certain categories of workers they do not represent. That's one. Two, really and truly, the last time telecom tariffs were reviewed was about 10, 11 years ago. We all know what the value of a US dollar 10 or 11 years ago was. We know what the current value is. So we can comfortably and easily say it's at the very minimum tripled in value.
Mm.
Now, the telecom companies here are employers of labor. Between the three or four of them, you can count the number of bodies they employ directly. You can count the number of service companies and businesses that have sprung up, have been established to work with them. Now, the telecoms companies have been crying out that we cannot continue to use outdated tariffs. That the equipment we use to provide the services, to provide the value that the average Nigerian subscriber enjoys, are not made in Nigeria. They have to be imported. And because they have to be imported, you have to buy them with foreign exchange.
Mm.
No serious supplier outside the country is going to accept the Nigerian naira. You have to pay huge duty costs when the goods land at Apapa. Now, rather than the NLC fighting this misplaced battle, they should be going back to the government. Now, the so-called minimum wage they agreed last year, when they finally agreed 70,000, the price of petrol went up, and it hasn't really substantially come down. What they should be focusing their energies on are studies to show that, okay, look, even the 70,000 at federal level, state level, or local government level isn't cutting it. When is the next review? these are our findings. This is what we propose because it is important that people earn a living wage. If they're expected to produce value, provide value to the employers, that is what they should be focusing on. I can assure them that this strike will fail because when you look at Nigerian social media, that is one of the few avenues where the average Nigerian can escape the grim reality of daily existence in Nigeria. People just go there to unwind, to have bands, and it's easy. And because they place a value on taking away stress and frustration, they will pay. Now, when you look at the financial statements for the telcos over the past 5 years, they've been earning steadily more money from data rather than voice calls. Everybody would rather make a voice over internet call, protocol call, than actually make a proper call. So, NLC, do you want the companies to fold up and go away? Or do you want them to be in business for their businesses to expand and then employ more people? That is the question the NLC leaders need to ask themselves. Two, the NLC is not asking critical questions like why are the state-owned refineries not producing petrol? Yes, we'll be told shortly that one of the Port Harcourt refineries and the Warri refinery are both on stream. They're on stream. Are they producing petrol? The answer is no. The NLC should be asking for details. Why? What happened to the 450,000 barrels of oil that is statutorily set aside for local refining? Where is that quantity? How come it's not being given to the refineries that are actually up and running and can actually produce petrol? So questions they need to ask, like compelling leaders at federal and state level to declare their assets, putting pressure on them. Rather, you want to fight an increase in telecom prices. I wish them all the best.
Mm. Let's see how that actually pans out. As you said, Mr. C, it seems to be something dead on arrival. But just before we leave this particular story, let's play a game of what ifs here. Now, I've seen a number of comments on different platforms at different times from people talking about, oh, this particular hike in tariffs, it's going to cost this, it's going to cost that. I mean, is there a slim chance that the NLC find some support from some people? I mean, amongst Nigerian citizens. I mean, is there a possibility that could happen?
Okay, so let's divide Nigerian society. Take the students, the young people, say from 18 to about 25. You think they're bothered? No, they're not going to join them. Okay, so we remove that section. Take the people who work, the working class people, say from early 20s to about 50, 60. Are they going to protest? They just chalk it up as an added cost of being in Nigeria, and they will get on with their lives. You don't expect the average banking professional, the average insurance professional, the average legal practitioner to complain about a 50% rise in telecom prices because ultimately all these professionals will incorporate this charge, this increased cost, and when they're billing their clients, the upcoming invoices will reflect the increase, no matter how marginal it is. So who exactly is going to protest? Is it aged parents, aged parents who are just trying to relax, play with the grandchildren, and put their affairs in order before they depart? So who exactly is supposed to be protesting? Even amongst the NLC, I'll truly be shocked if they can get 20% compliance across the federation.
Well, February 4th isn't too far away. It's in a couple of days. We will see exactly what's going to happen with this particular protest that the NLC has in mind. Let's get into the daily post. Gbubemi, I'm coming to your table with this particular one. Has to do with the educational sector. Now, about 1,000 lecturers of the Nnamdi Azikiwe University in Awka have protested non-payment of their salaries after 5 years of employment. Now, the protesting lecturers said a total of 12 of their colleagues who were employed at the same time have died while waiting to be paid their emoluments. Now, They were seen wielding placards with inscriptions to tell their stories. The lecturers appealed for payments of their salaries, saying that the current economic hardship in the country bites more on them and their families. Now, it's so mind-boggling thinking about this. For an individual to be employed and not paid for a month or 2 months is it's nuts on its own. But 5 years, this is ridiculous.
I agree. 5 years, to put in context, is 60 months. So, my first question.
Sounds worse when you put it that way.
Exactly. So, my first question is, who has been paying their salaries, quote unquote? And by that, I mean, how have they been surviving for the last 5 years? How have they paid rent, transportation, feeding, sent their families to school, paid hospital bills? How have they been living?
Mm.
I'm tempted to think that the students have been the ones paying their school fees, because I mean that's the next logical thought. So have they been selling handouts and taxing students and things like that? It really doesn't make sense. And for me, I'm even more shocked because it's a federal university. You know, to the best of my knowledge, there's no other federal university that has experienced this. I stand corrected. So does that mean that these issues are peculiar to the university itself and not within the federal university system? I believe this is something that the NUC, Nigerian Universities Commission, needs to take a look at and investigate. I will be shocked if this is new to them, because I assume that there must have been some form of formal complaints across the years. So they've now said that, oh, this is not an issue of the EPIS. EPIS is the software that the federal government at some point had mandated all universities to adopt in payment of lecturer salaries and all
Right,
of that.
right.
But now I think it's no longer compulsory or something. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, they've highlighted that it's no longer. It's definitely not an EPIS issue. So is it a university issue or is it an Abuja issue? Abuja in the sense of Nigerian Universities Commission. Then another thing is, for me, for 1,000 lecturers to stay at work for 5 years without getting paid a dime, that's a problem. Which is why I'm thinking, why, and don't quote me on this, why I said initially that maybe their students are the ones paying their salaries. Because I don't understand how people will go to work. You teach students for 13, 14 weeks a semester, you give them assessments, exams, you mark exams, you supervise students for projects, bachelor's, master's, PhD, and you're not getting paid a dime. It's really, really hard to believe. And I'd like to know, because I believe the federal government is allocating that money. Where is that money? Where is it going? Is it sitting somewhere or has it gone out elsewhere? There are lots of questions, and this, for me, this is it's a very, very critical issue that should not be taken lightly, and even up to the Minister of Education should get on top of this as a matter of urgency.
Okay, so let me quickly jump in on this. I just have a few questions. One, in the 5 years that this has gone on, the bursar of the school and the accounting office of that school, what exactly have they been doing? Question number one. Question number two, students in that school at all levels, have they not been paying fees, no matter how small? If they've been paying fees, what happened to those fees? Question number three, the governing council of that school, in the past 5 years, what have they been doing? Question number four, the principal officers of that school, have they been collecting salaries during that period? Question number five, the allocations that come from the federal government and from TED Fund, what exactly? Yeah, TED Fund is not for salaries, but it'll be interesting to know what they've been doing with the federal government allocations for the past 5 years. This makes absolutely no sense. There's no explanation. Then question number six. This is a federal school, correct?
Yes.
So the House Committee on Tertiary Education and the corresponding committee in the Senate, who supposedly have oversight functions, in the past 5 years, what have you done? How was this not picked up?
very important questions there. What one thing that I like to ask you with me about this particular thing, another perspective here is, in this 5 years, I mean, what sort of quality of work would these lecturers have actually been putting out? Going to class, I mean, not being paid for, as you said, 60 months. I don't think anybody who hasn't been paid for that long, goes to work each and every single day, is actually motivated to put in the proper work, because at the end of the day, they're there to impact knowledge in the lives of these students who are supposed to go out there and do great things. How is anyone who is being owed for this long able to motivate him or herself to be able to do proper work? Because this is education we're talking about.
So the question is, have they even been going to work? That's another thing. Thinking about it now, have they been teaching the required hours that they should have been teaching? Let's not even talk about the quality of what they should have been teaching over the periods. Have they just been marking time?
So, AY, the ability to impart information should not be tied to payment of salaries, because even in schools where salaries are paid on time, the impartation to students is highly questionable and can be highly doubted, because the end product is usually simply wonderful.
True story. But in this case, I don't think it's going to be worse. Now, my point is, I'm employed here. I'm not getting paid. I haven't been paid for this long. Why bother to put in 100%? I mean, yes, I understand. Even those places where they're supposed to put in 100, it's kind of sketchy at the end of the day. Now, just imagine how worse it's going to be in this particular
I'm sure the
situation.
lecturer starts each class by saying, "Well, they've not paid me salary. What you get is what you get."
It's a wonderful world. Okay, Mr. C, let's carry on here and jump into the Punch newspaper. Let's talk about the PDP. Yes, the Grand Old Party of Nigeria. Yes, yes, yes. Now, the PDP's elected governors have called for an emergency meeting on Friday in Asaba, Delta State, to redress the challenges that are plaguing the party. Now, this comes as the party's BOT meeting on Wednesday in Abuja was marred by rowdy scenes after supporters of Senator Samuel Amiawu attacked the party's former youth leader, Sunday Ude Okoye. Saw the video of that. It seemed like the Royal Rumble had come early. The PDP is in absolute shambles right now. Different factions, the Damabu faction, the Wike faction, and so on and so forth. Now, this is a party that is supposed to rival the APC in terms of size and in terms of influence as well. Let's not bring in the Labour Party. They've had their issues and all that. But is there any way back for the PDP? And I mean, it seems like the APC right now have an open field to, El Dorado or whatever.
Okay, so let's start this way. The majority of the existing political parties in Nigeria are gatherings of strange bedfellows. People just see them as vehicles to achieve political ambitions, not as movements that they believe in the ideology. Now, the PDP has actually been in shambles since they lost power in 2015. It's for the past 10 years. It didn't start now. Now, what we're seeing is the latest episode in a continuing season and show of impunity and the complete absence of shame and lack of respect for laid down rules, processes, and procedure. How did we get here? Wherever you have individuals who are allowed to become bigger than the political party, you will always see nonsense like this. Now, there are party members who have done things that are so clearly against the party's fortunes, against the party goals, that have not even been sanctioned. And because they've not been sanctioned, other people are seeing them as role models to continue doing what they like. How did we get here? Mr. Anyawu was his national secretary. He went to contest an election, he lost. Now, in going to contest that election, ostensibly he should have resigned or resigned. In his absence, the PDP names a new member from the same Southeast zone, since the office of National Secretary was zoned to the Southeast. Senator Anyawu loses the election and then decides to come back and resume work. But there's a new guy. Now, even more shameful is that both individuals, they're not gentlemen, have conflicting court orders in their favor, which again speaks to the sad decline in the quality of our judiciary. Because how do two of you possess conflicting orders on the same subject matter? Now they want to assemble in Asaba. Nothing's going to happen in Asaba. The big elephant in the room for the PDP is to discipline Nyesom Wike and decide whether he's a member or not. And because they are afraid or unwilling to sanction him, other members are now emboldened to be more belligerent, to be more disciplined. Mark my words, Asaba will come and go, no solution. Now, it's interesting that the acting chairman accused members of the BOT of pursuing a selfish agenda and stoking up the fires. Is the acting chairman innocent? Certainly he's not. He's been clearly and consistently accused of doing Mr. Wike's bidding in the party. What the party needs to do to save its soul very quickly is they must call an emergency convention. They cannot wait for later this year, I think, Q4 to hold the convention. They have to do it now. And they have to be strong, they have to be decisive, and flush out every element that is not in tune, in tandem with what they want to achieve. If they do not do that and they continue dancing around the issue, there's no hope for them because, like you rightly said, they should be the main opposition party. And at a time like this, they should act as the conscience of the country. But they are in no position to do that because they're divided.
Mm.
And some members have taken a backseat and like, let us see how you handle the Nyesom Wike issue. Because to all intents and purposes, even to the blind man on the street, Mr. Wike is an APC member. Yes, he will continually protest that he's still a member of the PDP. In name, in soul, and in substance, he's with the APC.
So he's still in the closet in that regard.
No, he doesn't hide it. Mr. Wike doesn't hide. In his home state, people who know him say he's not in the PDP, that he's in the APC fully. So these are the issues they need to resolve. And I'm surprised that this current set of PDP governors appears to be very weak because traditionally the governors hold the collective power in the party and it's what they want that stays. Mr. Wike is no longer a governor. He's just a minister who serves at the pleasure of the president. And if at any time the president says, okay, your services are no longer required, he's gone. So why can't they take a decisive step? I note that some influential people were at Otta yesterday, ostensibly to meet General Obasanjo for advice. Let's see what comes out. Basaba, nothing's going to happen. This crisis will still be there.
All right, let's take a couple of messages before we get back into the stories here. This is from Ibilade Ambo in Badagry and says, I don't know if there's any commercial establishment in today's Nigeria that can survive without price adjustment. A tariff increase in telecoms is inevitable. And there's another message here. Okay. This is from, is there a name attached here? This is from Shola. Shola says, Shola is in disagreement with you, Mr. C. He seems to think that you are an APC supporter. It says the economic hardship, according to from the telecom story, the economic hardship means that any other increased expense on the citizenry is not something to be dismissed just because you can afford it. What stops the government from giving the telecoms companies tax breaks so that they don't have to make life more unbearable for Nigerians? Did you even think of the increased operational cost will have on companies whose operations are heavy on data? Did you think of how the cost will be passed to the cost of goods and services? As long as it doesn't affect you much, it's no problem, right?
Okay, so my response to him, one, the tax break he's advocating for is a subsidy. Forget whatever name you use for it. You are reducing monies that should come to the government. That's one. Two, I'm not an APC apologist, and it's very clear you don't listen to the show, but that's fine. Three, what does he propose? Because the companies are saying without an increase, given the heightened cost of doing business or providing these services, if you don't increase the tariffs, we can no longer offer those services. What does he propose? Remember, hundreds of thousands of Nigerians are employed by these telecom companies. Do you throw all of them into the labor market, What about the people that are indirectly employed, the people that they directly and indirectly support? So yes, it's easy to take populist views that, oh, every you shouldn't pass on the cost. What would you do if you were in the office of Mr. President? Because I'm looking at it from a business sense, from a logical perspective. If you run a business and your costs have increased, you have one of two options. You either shut down or you increase the prices of your products. What business will run at a loss? These are not NGOs, they're not for profit foundations. These are companies set up with shareholders' monies to run a business and make profits for their shareholders. So I don't understand his position. I clearly disagree with it, and I invite him to send a further message with his thoughts.
All right, let's jump into the vanguard here, Gbubemi. Let's talk about security issues. Now, President Bola Tinubu on Wednesday called for a multifaceted response to terrorism, insurgency, and other forms of security threats in the Lake Chad Basin region. Now, Tinubu, who was represented by the Vice President, that's Kashim Shettima, made the call when he declared open the fifth meeting of the Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital. If you recall, this meeting, which was hosted by the Yobe state government, it brings together 8 governors from Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, and the Republic of Niger as well. It's, and of course, we know the issues that have been going on within that region in the last couple of years, security-wise. And a military offensive, yes, has been ongoing for quite a while. But as the president is calling for a multifaceted approach, definitely that has to be considered, bearing in mind that this issue hasn't been solved after all this time.
Yes, so the Lake Chad Basin is one of the largest freshwater bodies in the world, and unfortunately, since about the 60s or 70s, it has shrunk significantly, largely due to climate change, increased dependence on freshwater bodies by the people around there. And what has really happened now is, for example, fishing, activities, which was a mainstay in that area, has severely reduced. So economic opportunities for people have reduced. Because of that, a lot of people have had to migrate. There have been issues with settlers and farm and herders as well. So generally, what was once a thriving area has been reduced to an area of economic challenges in that sense. So that has made it attractive for a lot of these insurgents, because typically what they would do is come in and promise all the young men, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do that, and as a source of livelihood, because there's no other source of livelihood. So that's what has really contributed to largely to the source of manpower, quote unquote, for these insurgents. And over the years, it's important now, that there's a coalition of all these countries that are situated around the Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, and Chad to be able to address these issues. And it's interesting that the president has rightly noted that military action alone is inadequate, because they also need to tackle the root causes, which are poverty, inequality, and lack of job opportunities. So my question now is, over the years, this has been going on for maybe 15 north of that years. There've been a lot of international aid in that area. For example, at some point when communities were displaced, new communities were created, there've been a lot of donations, around that.
Right.
So what exactly has been done, over that time period? It would be nice to get some sort of assessment of what has been done, in terms of good donations received, in terms of also the contributions of Nigeria and all these other countries, to be able to improve on the economic profile of the people. And then, even as he rightly notes as well, that they need to be able to create opportunities for growth. He said that one of the key things they need to focus on is their collective commitment to the African Continental Free Trade Zone Act, AfCFTA, and to be able to advance the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. But when I look at all of these things, there's no clear plan or suggestion of a plan as to exactly what it is that needs to be done there. So there are two things that they need to focus on. They need to be able to focus on addressing the insurgents, whilst also, boosting the economic profile of the people.
Mm.
Now, addressing the insurgencies of military action, you've clearly said that, but addressing the economic profile of people, the concrete actual steps that need to be taken to do this, need to be clear to all. Is it a case of, oh, let's all go back into our countries and think of what it is that we'll do specifically and then we'll come back and do it? Or is there an actual plan now? We need to be able to know what that is.
Okay, so let me quickly jump in there. In addition to what Gbubemi has said, one of the key reasons why these non-state actors seem to thrive and prosper is a near complete absence of the recognized state actors. So in a lot of these places, governance, even at the local government level, is almost absent. So these guys step into the void and provide these services. And then the people realize, okay, at the end of the day, we're secure. Even though it's not the security we would have wanted, they have to pay for it, but this is Nigeria. So, in addition to all these grand statements they make, they should address some of the root causes. Yes, the economic situation is a driving force, but more importantly, address the near absence of recognized state actors in the lives of these people, and you will see that these non-state actors will cease to thrive. Can you imagine Boko Haram or Israel trying to set up bases in Lagos or in Port Harcourt or in Abuja? It won't fly. Why do they fly all over there? Why do they prosper there? Because the state actors are almost invisible. Go ahead.
All right, let me take a couple of the messages that are here as we call it the morning on Freshly Pressed. This is from Gilbert Musa in Festac. He says, on the planned strike against the telecoms hike of 50% tariff, the question is, will their services will their services be people and development oriented? Some telecom services, names withheld, have been highly unstable and inefficient since 2012, and one that a major investor pulled out before 2020 recently has poor network service till date. Okay, Daya from Fagba says, Daya from Lagos says, NLC led by Georgiero has failed. From day one, this government removed subsidy till when they increased electricity tariffs to buying of yachts, jets, and cars for senators. The money used to renovate the VP's lounge, and obnoxious policies have turned the people to beggars in the midst of plenty. Long message, but I'll cut it short at that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Dio. Okay, okay. Shola has actually come back, and he mentioned that the Yellow Network reported a record revenue of 2.46 trillion naira for the full year of 2023. What that shows is that the current business model is still very much profitable for the industry, and further increase may benefit the telecoms industry but pressurize all other industries. And he's asking, so what's wrong with government subsidizing some industries? All Western countries subsidize at different points in time. The point is that you underrate the ripple effects that the telecoms hike will have on other business activities, is what Shola is saying there. Okay, Tony from Marine Beach says, it doesn't appear sensible to fight in Nigeria with sense anymore. I'm sure the students who are heavy hit by the tariff increase will readily be with the NLC on this one. We should begin to do things normally in this country. Stakeholder engagements to put figures together and come up with proper resolutions and not this arbitrary whopping 50% increase with killer instincts. And Uluwache says, I believe those lecturers' employments have not been made official with the federal government because how? I believe they were employed by the school themselves and the lecturers are yet to be recognized by the government. All senior lecturers and VC probably brought their candidates. It's the usual way to get jobs in Nigerian universities. I don't think that's how it works in federal universities. The school bringing them in themselves. Is that how it works? I'm not too sure about that. But anyways, we really need to call it to money. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you so much, Mr. C and Gbubemi, for joining me on the Thursday morning. Always a great time having you guys in the studio.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
All right. Have yourselves a great morning and keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1. The show will kick on. The Smooth Breakfast, that is. 8:15, we'll get into the grapevine. It's all about the entertainment, gist, and so much more.
The stories, the news, in-depth analysis of national current affairs. Freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1.